me ask you a question. Have you ever heard the sayings, when God closes a door, what? He opens another one, right? Or when God opens a door, closes a door, he opens a window. You ever heard that one? Or my favorite is, when God closes a door, stop banging on it and trust that what's behind it isn't meant for you. Right? So oftentimes that we do just that when God closes a door. Most of us have experienced closed doors at some point in our life. And I'm not talking about the actual door that's closed, but more metaphorically. Closed is a hard word, isn't it? Because it means we're shut out. Right? We're unwelcome. We can't go there. It's not for us. Right? How many of you like that? How many of you like to go somewhere and not be welcome? To be shut out? To be restrained from going there? Right? Have you ever been hungry and you had your taste buds for some particular food, like a burger or something like that, and you get in your car and you drive there only to find out that they're closed? Man, that's disappointing, isn't it? Man, it makes you almost angry, doesn't it? Especially when you've got your heart set on it. But we've all experienced, and I'm not talking about food, although it is third Sunday and my stomach's growling, but there's a lot of types of closed doors that we experience. I can tell you when I was in 7th and actually 8th grade as well, I went out for the football team. And I can tell you that I have played in the neighborhood with other children. And in my own mind, I thought I was pretty good. Notice I said, in my own mind, I thought I was pretty good. So I went and I tried out and did the workouts and did the exercises. And you know, they tried me at different positions, and I didn't care because I just wanted to make the team, right? I wanted to get one of those uniforms. You know, the girls like the uniforms. So I just wanted one of those uniforms so I could say I was on the football team. That's all I really probably cared about at that point in my life. And we went through all that several weeks, and then came that day. If you've ever tried out for sports, you know what that day is, don't you? That day is the day that they post that list. You know the list? Yeah. The list that tells you whether you made the team or not. And so I proceeded to the gym, and I looked on that wall, and I read it very carefully, each name. And then there must have been a mistake, so I went back and I read it again. And both times my name wasn't on it. And you talk about disappointment. You're talking about a door being closed. I wanted to be on that team. But that door had been closed to me. And it was hurtful to me. Closed brought me a lot of pain, the word closed. I'm closed out. I'm unwanted. I can't go there. Closed can be hurtful. And I can't confirm or deny. There may have been some tears that day. But I'm not saying there was. It's a possibility. But we've all experienced that. That's kind of a guy thing. But what about ladies, you know, you dream of you know, Prince Charming, right? He's going to come in on his white stallion, and he's going to sweep you off his feet, right? And he's going to take you away to your castle. You know, as a young lady, you might have dreamed of that. That may have been your dream. And as you grew up and you started to date, you started to find out there was a whole lot more frogs than there were princes, right? And a lot of times those doors were closed to you, even though you may have thought, this is the one. This is the one who's going to carry me off. We're going to get married, and we're going to live in that house, and we're going to have 2.5 children, and we're going to have a picket fence. And one by one, you date people, and you come to find out, well, that's not the one. And 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 each time it's like a door closes and it's what? Disappointing to you, isn't it? Because you have really counted on that. You have really been hopeful for that. Right? So those hopes and those dreams are smashed. Or maybe you just decided you wanted to be the top of your field, no matter what that is, and you worked hard. You gave up your vacation. You gave up family time. You went overtime. You did all those things because you wanted to be at the what? Top. Everybody wants to be at the top, right? You wanted to be one of those guys that just walk around and said, you need to do that. I'll be in the coffee, right? You want to be that guy. You want to be on top. Only to one day find out that maybe you're not management material or executive material. It just wasn't going to happen for you. That door closed, didn't it? And that's a little disappointing. That's a little heart-wrenching, especially when you put so much into it. Or maybe you're one of those people who just, everything in life has gone right for you. You know some of the people? I know some of those people. Things just, boom, fall into place. You know, they're about to go off a cliff and somebody comes up and builds a bridge for them. You know, you can't get any more, going that way. And you go through your whole life that way, and all of a sudden, you get a call from the doctor, and all those things you work for really don't matter anymore. And it's a different kind of door, isn't it? That's more like a trap door that just drops you down and closes up. And it's hurtful. And there's pain there. But not all closed doors are a bad thing, are they? Because sometimes, as Pam was talking about, what in children's book, what waits for you on the other side wasn't meant for you. You see, closed doors are where disappointment meets opportunity. Because it's not so much whether you're going to have a door slammed in your face or closed in your face. Too often they're just slammed in your face. But it's not a matter of whether you will, because ultimately all of us experience that in some fashion or form. But it's more important is, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do when life closes a door on you? What are you going to do when they say, no, not today, you're not coming in here? This wasn't meant for you. What do you do with that? What do you do when you find out your plan, that thing that you have worked for all your life, isn't going to happen? See, everybody's got a plan, right? Everybody has a plan. What's the old saying go? Everybody's got a plan until you get knocked down. Then you got to decide whether you're going to get back up or later. Right? Everybody's got a plan. But the real question is your plan and God's plan the same thing? Are they meshing? Are they going together? Do you recognize God's plan? Or are you so concentrated on your plan that you don't see His? I want to tell you a story, and it's going to come. I didn't read it, the scripture, because it's very long, and I know you all don't like to hear me read, and I wanted to keep you all awake for the sermon. So I didn't read it, but I'm just going to kind of give you the Cliff Note version. I'm going to give you the short version, and I know your stomachs and you were saying thank you. If you can thank me later, it'll be okay. But I want to take you back into Genesis. I want to tell you about a young man who had a lot of doors slammed in his face, and how he handled that. Okay, and maybe he'll set the example of how we should live. Okay, and we're going to go back into Genesis, and there's a young man, and he's born into a family, a fairly large family. Excuse me, and he's born like he's that other family. You ever have the parents have 8 kids, and then they wait 10 years and they have one more. You know those families? Well, he's that one more. So he's that a little bit separated. But the good news is he was his dad's favorite. His dad loved him like nobody's business. He loved him more than the other children. He showed favoritism towards him. So much so that he made him a coat. A coat that had all these beautiful colors. And he gave it to him. And while the other brothers went out in the field and worked with the animals, he got to stay home and work around the house. He was what you call highly favored. Well, he was living the dream, as we call it. Comparatively to his brothers, he was in high cotton. You know that saying. So things were good. Things were going along good. But as you know, if you have brothers and sisters, that doesn't usually set well with siblings when one of them's favored, does it? And so one day, his father had sent him out to check on his brothers. And they saw him coming. And they said, let's kill him. Let's just kill him. And we'll be done with him. Now, you know, I've been mad at my brothers. I ain't never plotted to kill them. Ever. So, I mean, that's some rage. But one of the brothers said, no, let's don't kill him. Let's just throw him in that hole there, in that cistern. So they threw him in that hole. And you see, that one brother was hoping he could come back later and just pull him out of there and get him back home. But wouldn't let the other brothers kill him. Well, in the meantime, before he could do that, a caravan comes by. And what do? They sell him. They take him out of the hole and they sell him to this caravan. Now, Joseph, as most of you have picked up on this, we're talking about, right, the coat of many colors, Joseph. Joseph has gone from the high life to being a slave. He's gone from living the dream, to being owned by somebody else. You talk about a door being slammed. I mean, that's about as slammed as you can get, isn't it? He's been separated from his father now, who loved him very much, hasn't he? From that life that he lived. But we're told in Scripture that he walked with the Lord. In other words, he had a good connection with God. And he knew that his connection with God was more important than even his connection with his earthly father. Now we're going to fast forward in the story a little bit. We're going to get into Egypt. And he's been sold to a person in the high court of the Pharaoh. And he's a slave there. He's a servant to him. And somewhere along the line, you know, Joseph, I knew I was going to do it. Joseph knew that he had been dealt some bad cards. But he, in his faith, had chose to continue to walk with God. And because he walked with God, God blessed him and blessed everything that he did. And so he rose to the top, and the slave owner noticed how everything he touched seemed to prosper. So he raised him up to the top of the servants. And I'm sure Joseph's mind was saying, okay, I'm doing okay. I'm getting back on track. Life's going good. I'm on the top. I mean, I'm not an owner, but I'm at the top of all these people. I'm not the CEO, but I'm in the home office. So I must be doing pretty good. And then another door gets slammed. You see, Potiphar, who was the owner, his wife saw David, and let's just say she was attracted to him. And she tried to say, I said David again. Joseph. Just to save time, if I say David, no, it's Joseph. Okay, so she had her eyes on Joseph, and that she tried to seduce him. And Joseph, being a person of integrity, being a person of extreme faith, said, no, I don't want to do what's wrong. I want to do what's right. Well, that didn't sit well with her. So she arranged for everybody to be out of the house, but her and Joseph. And then she showed up in something that was probably a little seductive, more seductive than usual. You can imagine that. We're not going to go into details. And she went up to him and tried to seduce him again. And he said no, and he ran. But as he ran, she grabbed his coat, or his cloak. And when being rejected, and you know, women don't like to be rejected, in case y'all don't know that. Men don't like it either, but women really don't like it. Anyway, as her husband came back, she made up the story that he was mocking their religions, and that he had attacked her, and that only when she screamed out did he run away, and she was able to grab his coat. Of course, he was furious, as any husband would be, and he put Joseph back in, had him put in prison. Prison with the Pharaoh's prison. So instead of state, it'd be like federal, like important prison. So anyway, he had him put in prison. So that's another what? Door closed. Now, how many of you would be feeling a little like, what's going on here? You know, things start to get good and you smash me. Things start to get good and you smash me. You close that door, close that door. I mean, if it was me, that's how I feel, but Joseph stayed faithful. He continued to walk with the Lord. That's what it tells us in the Scripture. And he meets he starts, again, because of his work, because of his integrity, because of the things he's doing, he rises to the top of the prison hierarchy, of the things he's running the prison, kind of like an inmate, helping out the guards and that type of thing. But he's at the top. But then he meets these two gentlemen, and they come to him. They were the Pharaoh's cup holder, and the other one was the Pharaoh's baker. And they had been thrown in prison. And they come and they have these dreams they can't understand. They can't understand at all. And so he says, well, tell me your dreams. And the first one tells him the dream. He said, you're going to be restored back to your position of being the cup holder of the Pharaoh in the next 3 days. And the other one came to him and said, let me tell you my dream. You know, thinking he was going to have good news too, but the news wasn't good for him. The news was that he would be hanged, and that his body would be left out for the birds to eat. That was going to be his fate. And again, that would happen in the next 3 days. And one of the things that Joseph had said was to the one who would be restored to the cupbearer for the Pharaoh is, when you get there, don't forget me. Remember me. Remember that I've told you this story. And sure enough, both of those dreams came true. The cup holder was restored. The baker was hung, just as David had said. Now that would seem like a good thing, right? David, I said, whenever I say David, it's Joseph. It's just one of those mental things that I'm going to do all day long, I'm going to tell you. I apologize. I did that on the way over here thinking about it. I said, I'm going to do that, sure enough. I'm going to do that all day long. I'm sorry, Joseph. So it's one of those days. Joseph would have thought, well, you know, this is good. He's been restored. He's going to remember me. He's going to come and get me. I'm going to be pardoned. I'm going to be released. But days turned to weeks, turned to months, turned to years. And it had been a couple of years before he would come back for Joseph. How would you have responded during that? That's a long time, isn't it? You know, it's almost like being teased with something, isn't it? Like, here's something good, but you can't have it yet. Here's something you want, but you just can't have it yet. Have you ever teased your younger sibling like that? Where they wanted something and you just held it up high enough where they couldn't reach it? And they'd be like, they'd be jumping, and you just, and it's almost like, it's kind of, some of you have smiled, so I know you've done it. It's one of the blessings of being tall. that you can do that. But it almost would seem like God's doing that to Joseph, doesn't it? But Joseph stays what? Faithful. He continues to walk with God. Now, when bad things happen, a lot of times we have a tendency to get mad with God. When doors close and we don't understand why they're closed, sometimes we start to lose what? Hope, right? Our faith gets a little shaky. When bad things happen and disappointments in life happen, because they're surely going to what? They're going to happen, right? And so we accept that. When those things start happening, our faith gets a little shaky, but not Joseph. He continued to walk with God because he didn't know what the future held, but he knew the one who held the future. Right? Yeah. And that's what all of us feel, right? We have that same feeling. We don't know what tomorrow holds. I don't know what the next 5 minutes holds. I don't know how many more times I'm going to say David instead of Joseph. But I know the one who holds my future in the palm of his hands. So oftentimes we want to trust God with little pieces of our life, but we can't trust him with the whole thing because sometimes it's just too big for God. Right? I'm faithful in these small things. But can I be faithful in everything? Can I walk with the Lord all the time? You see, if you continue to follow Joseph's story, and a lot of you know that story, that not only is he released from prison, he rises to the top once again. And he's right under Pharaoh and taking care of the whole country, and taking care of the resources of the country. And this time, the door is not slammed. And you know, many years before, when he and his brothers had been together, God had given Joseph this dream. And he had told it to his brothers that one day his brothers were going to bow down to him. Now, they were older than he was. How do you think that set with them? Not good. Do you think they laughed that off? Do you think they thought maybe he was arrogant? They never bowed down to him, this little runt. I ain't bowing down to you. But you know what happened? They did. Because God had a plan. And you know, all those doors that got slammed in his face, all those doors where he went from up here to down here, when he went from the penthouse to the basement, all those doors that slammed in his face were leading up to that moment. Now, he didn't know the plan, but God knew the plan. You see, we established earlier that all of us are going to have doors slammed in our face. We're going to have hard times. Sometimes it's going to be financial. Sometimes it's going to be health. Sometimes it's just going to be disappointments in life. Sometimes it's just been doors that have been slammed in your face and you still remember them. They're still a part of you and they still keep bringing you down because why did that person reject me? I'm really good, but I can't get over this person rejecting me. Sometimes those things happen. They're called life. And they're a part of everyone's life. Doors slam all the time. So how do you get through that moment? You do just what Joseph did. You do just what Joseph did. You stay faithful. You say, but it's not fair, it's not just, preacher, it's not right. I'm doing the right things and still that door closed. Okay. It happens all the time. You're not by yourself. A lot of people are doing the right things and the door closes and you don't know why. Joseph didn't know why, but he stayed what? Faithful. If you put your trust in God and say, I'm trusting you for all my circumstances, I don't know where this is leading me, but wherever you're leading me, I'm going to go. I'm going to go. I don't know why God brought me to Ledbetter, but he brought me to Ledbetter and I said, I'm going to go. I didn't know the plan. I don't know the rest of the plan. But this is where he brought me. He brought me here today to save David instead of Joseph multiple times, right? And I don't know the answer to that. And I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I do know with all my heart who holds the future. And so should you. You see, as you go through life and the doors get slammed and you get knocked down and bad things happen, no matter whether it's health or finances, whatever it is that seems to slam the door in your face, know that God's on that side of the door with you. Be faithful, because God is always faithful to us. He says He'll never leave us or forsake us. And if that's the case, then He would never be on the other side of the door, would He? He'd be right with us on this side of the door. Strengthening us, comforting us, moving us forward. You see, that's what we're called to do. Accept that what's behind that door wasn't meant for you. That God's got something better planned for you down the line, and start moving in that direction. Start moving towards God in faithfulness. Where are you going to find comfort? In God. Where are you going to find peace? In God. It comes from nowhere else. It doesn't come from drugs. It doesn't come from a bottle. It doesn't come from other people. Other people will let you down. It's sad. Wish it didn't happen, but it's true. The only one that is 100% faithful to you in every circumstance is God. And it's from there that we hold our hope, our dreams, our knowledge that whatever God has planned for us is not just a plan, it's the perfect plan. But we need to be faithful and trust in it. In every circumstance you come to, look at it as what's God got planned for me next. I'm so excited because this is a new opportunity and it's going to be different. And I don't know what it is, but I know it's better than what's behind that door. And I'm trusting in that, and I'm trusting in God because I know He's faithful, and I'll continue to be faithful, and I'll praise Him each and every day. You see, if you can hold on to that, if you can grab that, if you embrace that, if you live your life like that, you will truly be blessed. And if you're believing that today, if you're embracing that today, if you're holding on to that today, won't you join me as all God's people said?
Amen. Amen.